Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Monday. Just a Monday. Maybe one of the more Mondayest Mondays we've had around these parts in a while.
It's a very Garfield Monday on 580 Sports Talk.
It's a Monday on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9. Online at 580WIBW.com. And streaming live on video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. And on our Facebook page at WIBW News. The gang's all here. That means Brendan Dworzinski is back from his week off. Spencer Dupuis is here. I am Dan Lucero, and we are here with you on a Monday. No, not a Victory Monday. Not this time. The 728-day reign atop the NFL is over for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it is emphatically over for the Kansas City Chiefs after they take one of the most one-sided Super Bowl whippings in history in New Orleans last night. 40-22, the Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl 59 champions, and the Kansas City Chiefs are denied their shot at history. There will be no three-peat. We'll talk all about it today on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Glad to have you here if you're still inclined to want to drown your sorrows. We're going to talk a lot about the Super Bowl today, and a lot of it's going to sound pretty similar because after a game like that, there is not a whole lot to be done but to tip your cap to the new champs because they came and took it. This was not an instance of the Chiefs being flat or making mistakes, although those things did happen. No, the crown was snatched from atop their heads by a better team, a younger, faster, deeper, hungrier football team whipped the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59, and to tell it any other way would not be telling the truth. So that's where the story begins today.
For the wrestling fans out there, this was painfully reminiscent to a degree, not a perfect allegory, but stick with me here, of Cody Rhodes finishing the story last year at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. Now, Cody went back-to-back years as in the main event of WrestleMania. He lost at 39. He won at 40. But he was the most popular guy. He had the Smarks loved him. The Marks loved him. The kids, the adults, the lifelong fans, everybody loved him. And everybody wanted to see him finish the story against big, bad Roman Reigns, who'd held the belt for over 1,100 days. Everybody wanted to see it. I don't know that everybody wanted to see the Eagles win. Our pal Spencer Dupuis certainly did not want to see the Philadelphia Eagles win. But after being heartbroken, coming so close, and getting heartbroken 2 Super Bowls ago, they build themselves back up. They went through turmoil on the path back to the Super Bowl. Should this guy be fired? They did fire a coordinator. They fired 2 coordinators, in fact, last year. They came all the way back, and then they looked awesome on the biggest stage. They had the biggest plays and the biggest moments, and they came away with a win. Now, Cody Rhodes needed help from The Undertaker and John Cena and all sorts of people to get his win. The Eagles needed help from just their own foot and the asses of the Chiefs because, man, that was a butt kicking for a full 60 minutes. I do not remember a game with no excuses in which the Chiefs have looked like that. We'll get to Super Bowl 55 in a little bit. Like, wow, Mike Remmers was out there. Like, okay, yeah, there's always going to be even a tiny little asterisk. Like, Mike Remmers started this football game. I mean, the Chiefs looked outclassed, I think, for the first time since Alex Smith was starting. Even in Super Bowl 55, like, Patrick Mahomes was good in that game. He had no help. He was trying to build bricks without straw. He
was betrayed by his tattered offensive line in that game. This game, everybody, and Mahomes too, and we'll get there. Everybody stunk.
Yeah,
and everybody was bad, and the Eagles were really, really good.
We don't have to try to do too many moral victory things here today. Well, I'm sure we'll get to a few, but to be completely honest with you, I actually thought the defense things fell apart in the second half because that's what happens in blowouts. I thought the defense played pretty dang well, all things considered, honestly.
I kind of did too. Like they executed what they wanted to execute, which was not let Saquon Barkley beat them, and it was the other 52 guys.
Man, the second Eagles play of the game. They throw that little swing pass into the flat. Saquon gets dropped for a loss of 4, 6, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bolton makes the most athletic play of his life. I got off the couch. Oh, here we go. Let's do it. This is going to be a slobber knocker deluxe. For one team, it was.
Yeah, for one team, it was. The Chiefs,
all downhill from there.
Yes, the Chiefs will have some time to pick up the pieces, and that's for later shows. We're going to talk mostly about what we saw on that field, which was, again, I think you put it well, Brendan. The Chiefs getting outclassed in a way we haven't seen them outclassed really, since Patrick Mahomes has been their quarterback. We haven't seen them lose a game like this that they were trying in. Like throw week 18 against the Broncos out. They started Carson Wentz. You really have to go back to, it was that game they lost to Tennessee 27-3. Was it 2 years ago? That was Super Bowl 57 year, I believe. Yeah. That would be the last time.
I forgot about that game.
And certainly not in a playoff game. With all due respect to, again, what Tampa Bay ended up doing on the scoreboard to the Chiefs, that was a final score that flattered the winners a little bit because it was a close game at halftime, and the game just got away from the Chiefs in the second half because Mahomes was running for his life. The scoreboard flatters the Chiefs last night. That was trending toward being one of the all-time Super Bowl beatdowns, and Mahomes ended up throwing like two of the best passes of his career in garbage time. Like, it didn't matter, but like both of those touchdown throws to Worthy are among the best throws I've ever seen him make.
Yeah, history will not remember Xavier Worthy's stat line. Have you seen Xavier Worthy's stat line?
8 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. It's one of the greatest receiver performances in Super Bowl history.
And no one will remember it.
And it's all like, that YouTube video of Chris Paul hits a huge three to cut the lead to 42. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It was all Chris Paul hitting huge threes to cut the lead to 42.
By the by, just real quick, that Chiefs team that lost 27-3, that was actually the 2021 team.
Oh, okay.
The only other team that has not made a Super Bowl in the Mahomes era other than his first year.
So that's how long it's been. That's how long it's been since I can remember sitting down to watch a game and see the Chiefs just outclassed and handed their own butts on a platter for 60 minutes. Obviously, the Eagles deserve a ton of credit for that. But we're going to talk about why what the Eagles did isn't necessarily like repeatable. I almost said sustainable. That's wrong. They could be back here on this stage next year, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least. But how they built this team, it goes to show you just how much things have to go right and how many breaks you need to get, and then how important a good front office is and how important one great draft class can be. Certainly the Chiefs have known that, reaped the benefits of a great 2022 draft class. The Eagles have drafted exceptionally well in recent years, rebuilt their secondary with the 2024 draft, and a big part of how they got here. We will talk about the uncomfortable parallels to Super Bowl 55. It is the damnedest thing that the Chiefs have 3 Super Bowl wins in this run, and in the 2 Super Bowls they have lost, they have been beaten with their own limbs for 60 minutes by and large.
Yeah, everybody who hates the Chiefs, who says they can't keep getting away with it. Well, last night was a big night for them.
Yeah, and,
because emphatically they did not get away with it.
Yes, that is 100% correct. So, and a lot of that comes back to number 15. All of the numbers say it was one of the worst games, if not the worst game of Patrick Mahomes' career, and it looked like trouble from the very beginning. So we will discuss all of that. We cover Super Bowl 59 from all possible angles, including the broadcast. What do we think of Fox, Tom Brady, that new score bug? What do we think of Kendrick Lamar at the half? What do we think of the commercials? We'll talk about all of that coming up later on in today's show. Lots of Super Bowl 59 recap to do. There was also a Sunflower Showdown on Saturday, and unfortunately, Brendan won't be around to talk about that with us. You're leaving at 5 today. You're going to go reach out to the youths. You're going to give back to the community.
Yeah, I've got a speaking engagement at 5 o'clock. So I, thankfully, don't have to acknowledge any basketball this weekend.
Yes.
I take it back. I would love to acknowledge. I called a couple games. Washburn looked great.
Yeah.
That's the only team I recognize in the Sunflower State, boys and girls. Washburn Ichabods.
Damn right. Ichabod's staying unbeaten. They're rolling. But we'll get into K-State beating KU for a 3rd straight year in Manhattan. Here's the question for you, Brendan. When was the last time K-State beat KU 3 straight times at Bramlage Coliseum?
1971 through 74.
It is a trick question. It has never happened at Bramlage Coliseum, but you're going too far back. Early 80s.
Oh, or was it early 80s? I thought it was the 70s. I must have been thinking the, well, No, okay. The stat I saw that I just jumped to, in a coach's first 3 years, how many K-State coaches have beaten KU each of their first 3 years? Then you have to go back to the early 1970s.
You're going back to the like black and white television days almost. For
not
for
every game on TV days. Yeah.
So we'll get to some college hoops later on in the show. Plus all the other things you kind of know and love from an episode of 580 Sports Talk on a Monday. We'll have our sports headlines top of the 5 o'clock hour. Start a new week on What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle. Do the good, the bad, the ugly from Super Bowl 59. The ugly, the game. We'll get to some other parts of it as well as we move along today. Got to laugh to keep from crying, right, folks? Text line is wide open, 785-272-9429. That's 785-272-9429. You can also interact with us if you are in the live chat today on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Already been an active chat so far. We'll get to some of your messages as we go along today. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, there is a live chat, whether you're on the web browser or in the mobile app, and you can interact with us and your fellow listeners throughout the show. You can also leave us a comment if you're watching on Facebook at WIBW News. And the better team won Super Bowl 59 last night, and resoundingly. And all year long, the Chiefs have been able to rely on their ability to be in close games in the fourth quarter and then have a two-pronged advantage. Number one, their advantage in scheme with Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. And number two, their advantage at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Stay in a close game, get it to Mahomes with a chance to go win it, or Steve Spagnuolo with a chance to dial up a blitz and secure a game. And the Chiefs would execute in those spots because they've done it so many times. It's like muscle memory over the course of the last two Super Bowl winning seasons and this Super Bowl runner-up season. That was the Chiefs' superpower. All those close wins, they weren't an accident. Keep it close, win the game in the fourth quarter where you have your superiority. Because the Chiefs did not have a Jimmy and Joe advantage in Super Bowl 59, and it became evident right away. I got to tell you, it was the second drive, the second Chiefs offensive drive of the game. They got a first down on their first play.
Yes.
You can remember all the way back to the first offensive play for the Chiefs. It was the same way they opened the AFC Championship game. Ran RPO, hit, I think it was Juju Smith-Schuster, that 11-yard gain. And then on second down and long, Mahomes misses Travis Kelce. Throw he usually puts in the pocket and missed the throws. A little behind, a little low for Kelce. Then on the third down, he's flushed up against a four-man rush and does some like late career Russell Wilson spinning and pivoting and scrambling, and then heaves the ball into a dangerous coverage area on third down. And then they go 3 and out on the next drive with the Eagles winning with the four-man pass rush on every one of the passing downs. And it was at that point where I posted to my Blue Sky account. I'm at Dan Lucero on Blue Sky. I said, winning with 4 in the pass rush is how Philadelphia wins this game, possibly convincingly. And that was exactly what happened. There was no chance to get this game to a point where it was close. It was another, what is becoming a characteristic slow start for the Chiefs in Super Bowls. They've never come out of the gate firing. 5 Super Bowls. They've never come out of the gate well. They were down 10-0 to Philadelphia 2 years ago. They were down 10-0, only scored 3 first-half points against the Eagles or the 49ers in last year's Super Bowl. They do not start these games well, but 10-0, manageable deficit for this Chiefs team. 24-0, like it was at halftime, and the second half was a long, slow death march to an inevitable conclusion.
It's a funny thing about that point you just brought up, because you're completely right about it, because what's the narrative about Andy Reid with extra time to prepare, right? Is that he's the greatest game planner ever with an extra week. So you would think the script would be untouchable, right? But it's not. It's the complete opposite of what Josh Allen looked like in the AFC Championship game. He ended up being really good in that game. I thought he played very, very well, even in a loss to Kansas City. But he was sailing throws. He was taking risks we haven't seen since like 2019. It was, Josh, chill, bro. You got to settle down here if you want to have a chance to win. For the Chiefs, it's like the exact opposite. Instead of being 110% energy and had 4 or 5 hour energies before the game started, like, we'll wake up eventually. Like, we're just kind of warming up. Like, we're using the first 5 minutes as our warm up. Can't really afford to do that in a Super Bowl. Now, it didn't matter. because they just got destroyed in this particular game. But yeah, it is kind of a funny phenomenon given what the reputation for Andy Reid is. I thought this was a really interesting point. Mina Kimes of ESPN did an instant reaction to the game, and her podcast feed had it this morning. So I was listening on my drive to work and while I was working this morning. And she mentioned that, when you look in hindsight and you just look at the talent disparity and also acknowledge Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches of all time, Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best defensive coaches of all time. It's not like the other side has a bunch of scrubs. Like Kellen Moore, I don't know how great he is, but he's clearly a good coordinator. I thought he called a really good game yesterday. Vic Fangio is legitimately great at being a defensive coordinator. Yeah. And Sirianni, again, how much credit does he actually get? I don't know. But even with last year's disastrous ending, that's 3 straight years in the playoffs and 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He clearly knows how to push the right buttons at some point. So when you consider all those things, and then you break it down to just Jimmy's and Joe's, like, what positions do the Chiefs have an advantage over the Eagles? Quarterback. Hurts was great yesterday. Better than Mahomes. No question about it. Yes. Generally speaking, game in, game out, year to year, I'm taking Mahomes. Duh. Elsewhere, though, like, where else is the benefit? Which makes you think, and the point Mina Kimes made was, like, with the benefit of hindsight, you say, we should have seen this coming from a mile away, because it doesn't matter how good coaching is. The talent is so ridiculous in the NFL. If you've got that big of an advantage, position group to position group, unit to unit, you're going to win almost every time. But the Chiefs have built up this incredible goodwill but they've got Mahomes. Right. And they've got Reid.
That's what it is. That's what it was.
They're down
end of the day.
10, but that doesn't matter because they've won 3 Super Bowls when down 10.
We talked about it all the last 2 weeks. Was you look at a lot of the advanced numbers and they will say Philadelphia is or ought to be favored in blinding, blinking lights. Like the number 1 defense in the league in the advanced numbers and in the old school numbers. All the numbers said this was the best defense in the NFL, one of the top scoring defenses in the NFL, one of the great offenses in the NFL. And man for man, I think those tail of the tapes are really silly. Like when they do them on like the studio shows and it says, oh, which team has the advantage at quarterback? Like Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts aren't playing against each other. It doesn't mean anything that one team's quarterback is better or one team's offensive line is better than another team's offensive line or one team's off-ball linebacker is better than the other team's off-ball linebacker. But yes, that exercise, a lot of green. A lot of green and not a lot of red when you do that exercise. This was a year where it mattered that the Eagles had the better 53-man roster. It was true 2 years ago. Mahomes' greatness made it matter not a whit because he had the ball last. That's what the Chiefs have been so great at. That has been their superpower. Not out-talenting people. They haven't done that in a long time. Their ability to out-execute, their ability to win close games because they expect to, because they know how. You know how you beat a team like that? Blow them the hell out. And that's what it has taken to beat the Chiefs in a playoff game. Their losses are 2 in overtime in AFC championship games and 2 Super Bowls where they never had a prayer. You have to blow them out. And the way that the Eagles blew them out, and our Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, Matt, by the way, unable to join us as he typically would on a Monday. He is in transit coming back from New Orleans. We'll get him on tomorrow's show. He was in the Chiefs locker room after the game. He's going to have some great insight for us, but we'll have to wait till tomorrow to talk to Matt. But Matt told us on Monday, the game is this. If the Eagles can get pressure with 4 pass rushers, they've got a chance. If they can't, they have no chance. The Eagles did not blitz, not one time, and they sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times, and they forced him into 3 turnovers. It was utter dominance, and the patchwork left side of the Chiefs' offensive line is just like any other piece of patchwork. It works until it doesn't.
If you're a magician and you make your living doing tricks and making magic happen, what happens when your wand breaks? Suddenly you can't do tricks. So suddenly there's no way to make a living. If you are living on skin of your teeth, just out executing, like you said, efficiency over all else, what happens when somebody puts a wrench in that plan? The Chiefs didn't have a backup, and they haven't needed one because, again, you've got 15 at quarterback, you've got Reid as your game planner, you've got Spags as your defensive coordinator, who's a genius in his own right. You haven't needed that. But if you don't have that secondary way to beat somebody, it suddenly becomes very hard to beat somebody. And I mean, you can make that comparison for any sport. Take KU basketball, for example. When KU won the national championship a couple years ago, if there was a bad night for Ochai, if there was a bad night for Jalen Wilson, for Christian Brown shooting the ball wouldn't go in, they could still win games. You know why? Because they could lock you down. Say, all right, fine, we'll win 60-59, and that's how we're going to have to win this game. And they could do it. And great basketball teams can do that. Baseball teams. The Royals, they went just a wave all season of bad offense, good pitching, good offense, bad pitching. It was just waves, but they were able to beat you in a number of different ways. Now, that was more random chance at times than it was actually intended, but you understand what I'm getting at. The Chiefs never really had that secondary option. I want to use that to real quick dovetail with a comment here from the YouTube from our good pal, former 580 Sports Talk intern, Trenton Kraxner.
What's up, TK?
We will get to the offensive line specifically a little bit later on this hour. So I don't want to dive too far into Tooney and Caliendo and all that and their actual performance. But I think this is an interesting point that I have a counter to. So Trenton says, why did they never put DJ Humphries in? Caliendo was not ready for the moment. Donovan Smith was out there the whole season. Disappointing from the organizational standpoint, in my opinion. Trenton, thank you for the comment. I think this is indicative. And if you wanted to end with that thought that it's an organizational problem or an Andy Reid problem, that's fine. That's totally fair. We know from Super Bowl 55 and other games the Chiefs have lost, the Chiefs have a game plan and they're going to beat you with their game plan or they are going to die by their game plan. Super Bowl 55. Remember the chatter afterward? Well, why didn't you start chipping? Why didn't you leave Kelsey in to chip? Why didn't you bring it's not what you do. West Coast offense, man. They're going to send 5 in the pattern. That's what they do, or 4 with a running back.
And it bears noting there were 2 specific instances where the Chiefs tried chipping. They tried to chip Kelsey. It didn't work. He couldn't get out on his route, and Mahomes got sacked. One time they tried to chip with Isaiah Pacheco, and he chipped Nolan Smith directly into Mahomes' path, and Mahomes got sacked.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have some conversations about Isaiah Pacheco this offseason.
Yeah,
but that beside the point. We'll have plenty of time to get to that, obviously. So the point I wanted to make here is the Chiefs are going to do what the Chiefs are going to do. And I think this also dovetails with the point about the 53-man roster. Guys, if DJ Humphries was good enough to play in the Super Bowl, he would have played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, and we know that because the Chiefs tried to mix and match tackles during the year. They started Suamataia and benched him, and then tried again, and then benched him right again. Like, if DJ Humphries was good enough, they would have played him. Was Mike Caliendo ready for the moment? No, absolutely not. But backup linemen are backup linemen for a reason. If you're starting a backup, generally speaking, you're not going to be in a good spot. It's honestly what made Nick Allegretti incredible. Like Super Bowl legend Nick Allegretti for playing as well as he did last year.
We got to take our first time out. When we come back, the buck has stopped with him after 3 Super Bowl MVP performances. It also stops with him after the loss last night. Patrick Mahomes wasn't good enough, and we'll talk about it next. We're just getting started on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Some thoughts from the YouTube comments on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Paul K in with in every butt kicking, there's a foot and there's a butt. Chiefs were finally not the foot. Worst possible time, but to collapse, but oh well. Congrats to the Eagles. Ryan K in says people that danced on our graves, we're going to be back. A little defiance in the face of defeat from Chiefs fans.
Hell yeah.
Raul,
I like the confidence.
Yeah. Raul in the YouTube comments. Hey, 580, I'm a fan. Do you guys enjoy BDSM? I've been experimenting with my wife. I've also been experimenting with your wife, Raul. That's not true. I'm going to get in trouble for that one.
I'm not sure about this one.
The spam bots are getting smarter. All right, Raul, that's enough. We're gonna have to. We're gonna put him in timeout.
Yeah, we're gonna put him in timeout.
We're gonna put him in timeout.
I didn't even see the second one.
You don't need to. We can't read it out loud. Let's just say that. Join the show and the live chat on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk. Hit us up on the text line 785-272-9429. Thought we could use a moment of levity because we have to go back and talk about the extremely not fun Super Bowl 59. Patrick Mahomes has gotten the well-deserved credit and the MVPs to go with it from the 3 Super Bowl wins in this Chiefs era, and we can acknowledge that he was denied those same heights in both of his losses, in part because of the opposing defenses wreaking havoc on offensive lines that were to varying degrees a bit patchwork. But this was not a good Mahomes game from the start. The early miss to Kelsey and then that third down decision on the opening drive of the game, those were harbingers of things to come and not in a good way. The interception he threw that ended up the pick six by Cooper DeJean, it's a great play by DeJean. It's also like rookie stuff from a quarterback who ought to know better on that stage.
Yep.
And when he missed DeAndre Hopkins on that out route on fourth down, the game's 27-0, like 3 minutes left in the third quarter. The game's almost surely over at that point, but it's definitely over when he can't complete a simple 5-yard out.
Mm-hmm.
Good play by Avonte Maddox, sure, but like that's a throw that he's got to get a little more on and get out to Hopkins a lot quicker. We'll talk more about the broadcast itself. I didn't think Tom Brady was particularly great. I just don't think he's a great broadcaster, but I thought there were 2 things he pointed at that were absolutely right. Number one was he was immediately seeing that Mahomes, after the way the Eagles pass rush started the game, it looked like the Mahomes from the first half of the season, where he flat out did not trust his protection. And as a result, did not trust the play to develop, did not trust the things he was seeing on the back end. And then the other thing that Brady pointed out after that throw to Hopkins was that lack of trust in having a pocket manifests itself on you don't get on the laces, you don't throw it sharp. That pass wobbled to the sideline. The pass rush affected Mahomes. That is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
But this was not good enough from the guy who had to be great. If the Chiefs were going to have any chance, he had to be great, and he wasn't. Now, let's also acknowledge that the 2 touchdowns he threw to Xavier Worthy in the second half after the game had been decided were 2 of the most awesome throws he's ever made in an NFL game. He's still peerless as a player. He's just not infallible. And all of those Michael Jordan comps we've been making to Patrick Mahomes, we're going to have to set those aside for a little bit, at least for a year.
I think that a lot of the narrative post-game, well, he can never be Brady now. I hate that stuff, man. I really do. I take a lot of pride in not engaging with that. It's just so frustrating and annoying because the dude still already has 3 Super Bowls and he's not even 30.
He can't be Brady, but he did something Brady couldn't even attempt to do.
That's true.
Like he attempted to do something that Brady couldn't even attempt.
I actually think it's funny how closely he's tracking Brady. 3 Super Bowls before 30.
Yeah.
A blown 21-3 lead in an AFC championship game. Brady did that.
Yep.
Also,
2 losses.
Losing a Super Bowl, 2 losses before, 2 losses, a 3-2 record in his first 5 Super Bowls, and a loss with a chance at something truly historic.
Yeah.
Like Brady lost the game when they were 18-0, right? Mm-hmm. He was a quarterback, and they scored 14 points. Best offense we'd ever seen to that point in the NFL, the 2007 Patriots. And they scored 14 points in the Super Bowl with the perfect season on the line, and they lost to a dramatically inferior Giants team. That's the one thing Mahomes hasn't done yet. And they haven't lost to an inferior team in one of these. They certainly didn't lose to an inferior team last night. Yeah. So the legacy's still tracking a bit. He's still playing all the hits. You can't duplicate Brady if you're not going to play all the hits. Even those.
I will say is Brady even last night said, like, I lost 3 Super Bowls and I took more from the losses than I took from the wins. So
yeah, and the great ones always do. The great ones are always like that. And Patrick Mahomes is one of the greatest of all time. If Patrick Mahomes retired today and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go hang with my wife and kids," he's in the Hall of Fame. The second he can be voted in, he is in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the sport of professional football. And that does not take away from the fact that he stunk last night. Like he was already not good, and the pressure, which has bothered him more this year than it ever has before, really came to a head last night. I've never seen that I can remember Mahomes step into pressure before.
Yeah, he was stepping into sacks in a way that you don't typically see him do.
No, there was a play, and I'm trying to remember when it was. It was late second quarter or early third quarter.
A lot of sacks to choose from. He ended up beating half a dozen.
And Brady even mentioned it. It was one of the few things he got right over the course of the game, that Mahomes, you could see from the sky cam view, just stepped into a mass of humanity that was right in front of him. He maybe would have been sacked anyway, but he had room to escape out to the left or out to the right. And he just tried to step up, and Brady said, well, he's trying to create a little space, but he's stepping right into bodies. That's not something you normally see. It's not something you ever see from Patrick Mahomes. People gave Sam Darnold so much crap for getting caught on the Monday night mic'd up saying, I'm seeing ghosts. That's very real. He's always gotten a bad – now he's also struggled a lot in his career. He's gotten a bad rap for that. But that is a very real thing. Go back and watch some of the games from this year, guys. I mean, the left tackle problems had Mahomes spooked. He threw so many balls at dudes' feet this year just because he was trying to get rid of it, not take an extra hit or take an extra sack. And I think that finally caught up with him, again, along with just making some poor decisions that you don't expect from him. And that, it's not okay because you just lost the Super Bowl, and obviously that's never just an okay thing. But it's okay. In terms of evaluating the greatness of a player or of a quarterback, yeah, man, he's awesome, and he had a really crappy game on the big stage.
Yeah, both of those things can be true.
It is absolutely true in this case.
We'll take another timeout. When we come back, the depressing parallels between this Super Bowl loss and the other Super Bowl loss in this era for the Chiefs. It's history not repeating, but rhyming, and we'll talk about it next as we continue on 580 Sports Talk. Couple of texts from the text line, 785-272-9429 here on 580 Sports Talk. Text from 316. Problem lies with Mahomes. You watch any game he's played, when he throws his first interception, he's not worth a crap the rest of the game. Tries too hard and gets flustered. Definitely was flustered last night. Also from the 785, Patrick won't say it publicly, but his line betrayed him again. That's the most obvious parallel to draw between this Super Bowl loss and the one 5 years ago, Super Bowl 55 in Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers. But the difference is the composition of the offensive lines. The Chiefs ran the best possible offensive line they could have run out on the field last night against the Eagles. Against the Buccaneers in Super Bowl 55, it was two-time Super Bowl least valuable player Mike Remmers and a bunch of bouncers, like NPCs and in front of Patrick Mahomes, and they got work. This was not that. This was a potential future Hall of Famer playing out of position, but still a potential Hall of Famer in Joe Thuney. This was the highest paid center in the league, Creed Humphrey. This was somebody about to be the highest paid right guard in the league, in Trey Smith. This is one of the highest paid right tackles in the league, in Juwan Taylor. And they got it handed to them repeatedly in this game. And I think that
most times Mahomes has ever been sacked, by the way.
Yeah, 6 sacks, 3 turnovers, the strip sack in the third quarter where it was like cartoonish violence against Mahomes. They probably could have called a roughing the passer. It looked like a hit to the head on Mahomes on that play. They
could have clearly a hit to the head.
Could have called a roughing.
But if they did, the whole world would have blown up.
Yeah,
a fractured spine. Who cares? Put a skirt on him.
Yeah, go ask the most
morons.
Go ask the most important people in your life today when the NFL is going to rig that game for the Chiefs. Like when that is going to start.
Real quick,
go ahead.
I kept seeing even from people that I really like who cover the NFL. That was a real ticky-tack flag on A.J. Brown. No, it wasn't. He stretched his arm out and put his hand right in Trent McDuffie's face mask. What is ticky-tack about that?
Yeah, if it
was clear as day.
If Trent McDuffie had done the same thing to A.J. Brown and intercepted the pass, it would have been defensive pass interference.
But clearly, yes. I couldn't believe how many... that's not going to make people happy. That's a pretty tic-tac. No, it's not.
Yeah, but they felt like they had to throw a makeup call, and they threw one on the extremely soft.
Far worse.
Yeah. Extremely soft flag on McDuffie that extended their first scoring drive.
Trent McDuffie looked like a seal. He went straight up and cocked his head to the side to avoid contact, and they still threw a flag.
All makeup calls do is make games worse.
Well, that Nick Bolton one.
That was a little bit soft, too, but I totally understand.
Who had a worse performance? Ron Torbert, head referee, or Matt Ariza, Chiefs punter?
Hey, there's no reason Matt Ariza should have a job next year. We can
I kick really hard.
We can do like we got plenty of time to do post-mortem stuff. I don't want to overstuff this show with post-mortem stuff, but the Chiefs absolutely need a new punter. Matt Ariza sucks. Like, that dude sucks. He's the punt god. He can kick it high and far. Great. Has he ever considered stopping the ball inside the 10-yard line? Once in his life.
When they had to punt from inside their own 10, it was after the interception, and then they couldn't get, and I thought, okay, there's the mistake by Jalen Hurts. Can they take advantage of it? No. And they had to punt from deep in their own end. Ariza there, great. Booming punt. Awesome. Flip the field. When they had to punt from the 45, hey, I bet I can kick it out of the stadium.
Yeah, you may
don't.
May as well go for it.
The biggest thing that punters have done over the last 15 years, I think Pat McAfee was great with this, the coffin corner. And it just seems like
he has never tried that. He doesn't know what that is.
He doesn't understand what it is. He just sees like, they're not within field goal range. All right, let me kick it out of the back of the end zone and give him a.
Do I get points like Australian rules football if I punt the ball through the big stick?
Do I get? I got it behind. No, he's going for the Rouge. He's going for the CFL Rouge. Meanwhile, Braden Mann had a perfect kick inside the 10-yard line yesterday.
The text from the 785 here in response to
the offensive line.
The offensive line. Text from 785. Great quarterback diagnoses the defense for his line. And that is true. Great quarterbacks do. They make checks. A lot of times you see a blitz coming. You help your offensive lineman identify where the blitzes are coming from, slide the protection, all that stuff. Here's the thing. The Eagles never blitzed. Literally not once did they send more than 4 rushers at Patrick Mahomes. So at that point, it becomes a mano-y-mano thing, and there ain't nothing the quarterback can do about that. That is all you either win your matchup or you are in your quarterback's lap. And Mike Caliendo must have thought Patrick Mahomes was Santa Claus as much time as he spent in Mahomes' lap in that game. And I don't mean to pick on Caliendo because he was obviously the weak link on the offensive line.
Right.
But this goes to a broader point. We'll get to it in the next hour about the Eagles being so deep that they could attack the points at which the Chiefs were not. The bits of weakness that the Chiefs had that were always there, and we talked about them all year long. The Eagles were uniquely constructed to make those bruises hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And that the end result of that is a game that's going to go down. We're going to have to explain to people, I'll have to explain to my son, first Super Bowl of your lifetime, kiddo. You went to bed at halftime. I wish I had done the same. 40-22. That seems like a real high scoring game. Son, let me explain something to you. That was a beat 'em down of the highest order. I haven't seen a Super Bowl that one-sided since the Seahawks took it to the Broncos in Super Bowl 48. That's the historic. We don't get the blowouts like we used to. Those of you who lived through and remember the 80s Super Bowls, we used to get blowouts all the time. We don't really get blowouts like this anymore. In my lifetime, it's basically been Super Bowl 29, 49ers, Chargers. My lifetime that I can remember. The 52-17 Cowboys over the Bills, Broncos, Seahawks, and this game. This game deserved a score that was more reflective of what it really was, which was total domination. And the Chiefs, like we said at the very top of the show, kind of being outclassed in a way that they have not been outclassed in a football game in a long time.
I want to add one more thing about the offensive line, and I brought this up on the Instant Reaction show on YouTube. It's all up on the YouTube, by the way, if you want to see what Dan Spencer and I had to say immediately after the game. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. This offensive line performance is far more embarrassing than Super Bowl 55.
Yes.
Because Super Bowl 55, again, mentioned it earlier, you had dudes who were fringe roster players, injury replacements, you had to play these bad players, not relative to the average person, relative to the NFL. You had to play them because you had no other options. Eric Fisher was hurt. Mitchell Schwartz was mysteriously injured for the entire season. The guards got banged up. You just didn't have anything left on that offensive line. This line featured a 3-time All-Pro in Joe Thuney, who I know was playing out of position. He had been, at worst, solid until yesterday. Creed Humphrey is about to be, once his contract kicks in, the highest paid center in the NFL. Trey Smith is about to get over $100 million, probably from the Chicago Bears this offseason. And Juwan Taylor, we know about his $20 million a year the Chiefs are paying him.
Ridiculous.
That group was that bad? No, never. That quartet, I don't care if Mike Caliendo's playing or not. That group of four should never be that bad, and they were terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last night. I think you can only patchwork something so long, and it only lasts so long. And I think the patchwork this year just blew up in their faces yesterday.
Like trying to run the Daytona 500 on a spare tire.
Yeah,
and the donut's gonna pop on you eventually.
Yeah,
we got to take a timeout. We'll come back with the good, the bad, the ugly from the Super Bowl. Other than the game. No, actually, the game is going to factor in. We'll talk about it on 580 Sports Talk. good, the bad, the ugly from Super Bowl 59 as we wrap up this first hour on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. My good, the pregame on-field entertainment at Super Bowl 59. Herrick Connick Jr., the Southern University Jukebox, all of the other musicians. It was very local. It was very New Orleans. It was a lot of fun to watch and listen to. And I hoped that the game would be that much fun, and it wasn't. But that was a very fun way to start.
Trombone Shorty is the best. I love Trombone Shorty. I've gotten to see him live before. He's awesome. My good, quick two-parter, number one, away from the Super Bowl. Washburn's awesome, man. You go to the arena. There's only a couple of home games left in the regular season. Make sure you get there. The women are playing great ball, and the men are the best team in the country. From the game, sorry that it's a good from the Eagles, but Lyons Township High School alumnus, class of 2013, Jake Elliott, now has the Super Bowl record for points scored by a kicker in a single Super Bowl, with 16 yesterday.
You will be telling people at the reunion the time you and Jake Elliott combined for 16 points in the Super Bowl.
Did you know that his swimming locker was next to mine freshman year of high school?
Spencer, you're good.
Yes. So my girlfriend came to me the other day and she said, "Hey, I want to bet on the Super Bowl." And I said, "All right." I was like, "You can send me some money and I can put it in my account." And then yesterday, she said, "I'm going to make a FanDuel account." She got $5. She won a $5 bet, got a $200 bonus bet, which you have to spend within like 7 days or something. Right. I said, we're in the fourth quarter. And I said, you know what? Put 115 bucks on DeAndre Hopkins to score a touchdown, because I think they're going to try and get him one. And you know what happens? He scores a touchdown, and she withdrew $1,475.
Nice
from her betting
That's
account.
incredible.
Will not bet again.
Should not have withdrawn that much. You're gonna have to answer for it on taxes now. You gotta smaller amounts. That's the trick. My bad. The fleshy hats on the Tubi commercials. Bad, awful in my nightmares. The fleshy cowboy hat. I'm gonna be
very uncomfortable. My bad. Tom Brady. He's not good at this.
No, he's
good at winning Super Bowls, not calling them.
The score bug.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
We're going to have more to say about all of the other accoutrements from the Super Bowl as we go along the show. The ugly, we can agree, like the first three quarters.
Yeah.
My ugly, Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend went on the field and celebrated with the Eagles yesterday. Kayla, just a tip. You've got a lot more to live for than this. Please, want better for yourself, please.
Hey, we're talking about her again, which was the...
That's all she ever wanted.
I guess the entire point. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, the Eagles are the NFL's new standard. Plus, what is wrong with you and all that other Super Bowl stuff. We'll get further in depth on the broadcast, the commercials, halftime, pregame, all that stuff. That's coming up. Stay with us as we continue on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on a Monday here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. So glad you're with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and streaming our video live on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Brendan Wrzinski, Spencer Dupuis. The gang's all here, back reunited after Brendan had a week off, and we'll be reunited for one more hour today, and then Brendan's going to take off on us again, and he'll be back tomorrow.
I will be back
for another 2 hours, and he'll take off on us
early again. Yeah.
And then you'll be out most of the end of this week because you're gallivanting about the MIAA.
Yeah, heading to the
Smort Fifth.
I was
Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Smort Fifth. Wow, that's got to go on the Mount Rushmore of
Spoonerism.
Of 580 Sports Talk spoonerisms, right up there with Lake Jabon, as well as Roby Toland.
I remember Roby Toland, our good friend, voiced the Sooners.
I remember I said that once to Jake before we brought Toby on. And Toby's a great dude. He's been the voice of the Sooners for a long time. Great dude. I remember we were bringing him on one time. We're in commercial right before we called him. And I said, good old Roby Toland. And Jake goes, stop saying that because I'm going to call him that if you say it again. Stop.
That's real.
It's like, all right, fine.
Yeah. Glad to be hanging out with you. Smort Fifth. I don't know where that came from, man. I don't have any idea. Smort Fifth.
This is my uncle Smort.
My son is also named Smort. Hey, look, I'm glad we got something to laugh about today because Super Bowl 59 was sure no laughing matter. We are doing a show today on a Super Bowl Monday, and let me tell you, the 3 easiest sports talk shows in the year to do. Number 3 is the day after the Super Bowl, and number 1 is the day after the Super Bowl when your team wins. Number 2 is the day after Super Bowl when the team you're covering gets beat, and beaten soundly, as was the case for the Chiefs last night in the Superdome in New Orleans. Eagles 40, Chiefs 22. The Eagles have dethroned the Chiefs and denied them the three-peat, and done so in such a fashion that this really does feel like a passing of the torch a little bit. We'll talk about how the Eagles did it and if moving forward they are indeed the new standard bearers in the NFL. Also coming up later on this hour, it's our first round of the week of What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle at ryanmowinkle.com, plus all the other Super Bowl stuff. And we want to hear what you had to say about the other Super Bowl stuff. What do you think of Tom Brady? What do you think of that new Fox score bug? What do you think of Kendrick Lamar? What do you think of the anthem, the pregame performances? What do you think of the commercials? I have to be honest, as a new father, my son's first Super Bowl, 8 months old, as of Friday. And it definitely changes the way you watch sporting events because, you got one eye on the little dude army crawling his way around the floor who wants to put everything in his mouth and another eye on the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was not as dialed in on the commercials as I've ever been. It doesn't sound like I missed much, but I saw a few and had to miss the halftime show live. I was very excited for the halftime show. I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan. I was very excited for the halftime show, but happened to coincide with initiate bedtime sequence at Lucero Manor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did instead. And I got around to watching the halftime performance today and have some thoughts on that. So it changes the way. Was your game day experience altered any by the presence of Baby D?
Mine wasn't. My wife missed Kendrick Lamar live because she had to feed the baby before she went to bed. But no, I got to see most of it. There was a portion end of the second quarter when we got the little music mat out and she was rolling around playing on that. So we had a different soundtrack instead of Tom Brady for part of the game. Yeah. Songs about purple monkeys and bubblegum trees and all that.
I would have killed for One Little Finger instead of listening to Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I would have killed for John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
So no, I had a pretty normal experience. We have made a very dedicated effort. Like if she looks at a screen, we either will step in front or just like turn the screen off. We couldn't do that yesterday.
No.
So there was a lot of holding up with her head facing the opposite direction.
Yeah. You don't want him to be vegging out on screens early on.
No.
That being said, Asher loves Miss Rachel, bro. Let me tell you what. I start putting that on in the background, and man, we got a picture of me holding Asher on my lap, and Miss Rachel is on. You would think he was watching like the most beautiful thing he's ever seen in the world. Like he's just so happy in that moment to be watching Miss Rachel. If you know on Miss Rachel, other parents of youngsters, I'm sure you can relate. You kind of know what I'm going through.
Unrelated but slightly related. I know a guy, Twitter mutual friends for years now. He's got 2 small kids, and a year or 2 ago, he posted a picture of his son, who at the time might have been like 18 months, 2 years old, standing up, hands on their TV screen when Sydney Sweeney was on TV. And it was like, yo, he's getting closer to Sydney Sweeney than I ever have. Got like 100,000 shares on Twitter. Pretty funny, honestly. So yes, not quite the same, but a little bit the same.
I also have to say, and now I think if Chiefs fans would like to blame me for last night, they're welcome to, because the last 2 years we had a Super Bowl get together at our house. My in-laws had come over, my mother and father-in-law, my brother and sister-in-law, one, and we'd all watch the game at our place, watch it down in my sports dungeon, my little sports cave on the big screen. And that's where we watched the Chiefs win the last 2 Super Bowls. We did not have that get together this time around. Things are going on. Obviously we've got the little one. My brother and sister-in-law have a little one too. And it just didn't work out for us all to get to the same place and watch the game in its entirety. So we didn't, and the Chiefs lost. So that's what was different last night. That more than anything else is probably the reason the Chiefs didn't win. If you are the superstitious type, you can blame me.
We are going to, that is very funny. We are going to get to your guys' prop picks from Friday a little bit later on this hour. I would, however, like to bring up my 2 favorite prop bets from this weekend. Now, we are limited in the state of Kansas in terms of what prop bets you can bet. Like, you can't technically at one of the official books bet on the Gatorade color or the coin toss, right? But if you wanted to go venture to an offshore book, and I won't tell you which one, but an offshore book that I have used from time to time back in the day, you can find great prop bets like these 2. Speaking of the coin toss, you want a good coin toss prop you could have bet on yesterday?
Is it the one that the coin gets stuck on its side?
The coin during the coin toss will land on its side with neither heads or tails being awarded on first toss, plus 50,000. You could have bet real American legal tender currency on that the coin would land on an angle and not on a face. Or my personal favorite, I even put this one on social media. This is only plus 10,000. The Fox broadcast will be interrupted by live coverage of Patrick Mahomes Sr. driving a white Ford Bronco.
So bizarre.
You can bet on that. You could have given money to Lithuania or whatever to have actually bet on that.
Automatic loss.
Incredible. Last year, there was one that Taylor Swift, the 49ers would win, and then Taylor Swift would cheat on Travis Kelce with George Kittle on the field after the game. That was also, I believe, plus 10,000.
Did you see what Jason Kelce had to make a joke about? Because it was pretty annoying.
I did not.
There was one prop bet about if Donna Kelce or Taylor Swift would show cleavage.
Ew.
And then Jason quoted it and said, "Joke's on you guys. I'm taking my shirt off."
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, that was minus 10,000. Jason Kelce would be shirtless at some point.
No joke. You can interact with the program today. We were happy to see you all in the YouTube live chat. If you are watching the video stream today on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. If you're over there and watching, checking us out maybe for the first time, and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should do that today. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can also hit us on the text line, 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. Text from the 785 says, bad when you start to talk like Miss Rachel without trying. Listen, I'm standing over the dishwasher these days, emptying the dishwasher going, take it out, take it out, take it out. So yeah, my brain is broken.
I'm glad I'm not at this point in my life.
Yeah, you just wait, pal. Just you wait. So sometimes a Super Bowl just kind of exists in a vacuum, and whoever wins the championship, they're the champion of that year, and it ends up not being a sign of things to come, or it doesn't have a lot of historical context for before, after. Like the Rams beating the Bengals in the Super Bowl 3 years ago is a great example of this. That's the Super Bowl that just kind of exists. And the Rams won the Super Bowl that year. They were the 4 seed. They got hot. Aaron Donald was awesome. And Matt Stafford and Sean McVay have a ring. And they managed to beat not Patrick Mahomes that year because the Chiefs screwed up in the AFC title. That game just kind of exists. So, most Super Bowls, though, more often than not, represent where the league is going, or the state of the league in the present and the state of the league in the future. When the Chiefs won in 2019, their first Super Bowl, that was a pretty clear, like, the torch has been passed to Patrick Mahomes. And this is the guy who's got a chance, like all of the greats in the eras before him, to pile up the championships. Like, that was a signifying Super Bowl win. And their win in Super Bowl 57 was a signifying Super Bowl win. And their win last year was a signifying Super Bowl win in the sense that they have now done something that had not been done in 19 years, win back-to-back Super Bowls. They are stamped as a dynasty, team of the decade, all of that. I feel like last night's Super Bowl is also a signifying Super Bowl because this was not the Chiefs handed this game to the Eagles. The Chiefs had an uncharacteristic. This isn't going down as like a Super Bowl shock, like when the Eagles beat the Patriots in Super Bowl. What would that have been? 53 or 50?
52.
52. Yeah, yep. 52.
53 was the worst Super Bowl ever.
Or Super Bowl 32 when the Broncos shocked the Packers. Like, this is not going to stand as like an all-time Super Bowl upset or one where we go, man, how in the world did that happen? No, this felt like the Eagles coming up to the Chiefs and saying, run the jewels. Run me that crown. It's ours now. It felt like a statement from the Eagles that they now are the big dogs on the NFL block. And the reason I think it feels that way is because of the youth of this team and because of their superiority and depth at every position. Like, the Eagles had the best offensive line and the best defensive line and 2 number 1 wide receivers and drafted 2 day 1 starters in the defensive backfield and happened to sign the best offensive player in football this year and the best linebacker in the league this year in free agency. They did all that, paired them with an all-time great defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator who's about to go be a head coach, and added that to a quarterback who you already knew the Super Bowl spotlight wasn't too big for because he'd already played great in 1 Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. If you have all of those things, you feel a little bit like a juggernaut. And I think we're going to look back on this Super Bowl and look at it less about, well, this is about the Chiefs. This one I think is going to stand and be about the Eagles and how great they were and the fact that they won both the conference championship game and the Super Bowl by 18 or more points, which is something that no one has accomplished since the 1989 San Francisco 49ers. This is a dominant team, and they got a chance to do this for a little while because they draft really well, and they're super young, and they've got super high-end talent that is young.
They do. They do have a lot of really good talent, and I do think they have a lot of pieces that are ready for, being good for a long time. They've got Saquon for another couple of years. Jalen Hurts, obviously, whatever his limitations might be on a week-to-week basis, he clearly knows how to rise up in the big moments, and he gets a lot of credit for that. He deserves a lot of credit for that. You've got the wide receivers, like you mentioned. The offensive line is built to last. The defensive line, they're going to have to make at least a couple adjustments because either they're going to have to pay Milton Williams and or Josh Sweat, or I don't think you can pay both of them. They're both going to get huge contracts in free agency this year. But you'll have to replace at least one of them, if not possibly both. So that's an area where you've got to ask some questions. I'm very curious what they're going to do with Zach Bond, who's still pretty young. I remember
28.
28?
Yeah, I looked this up last night after we talked about it on the.
Okay, so he's actually a little bit older than I realized.
Yeah.
He must have been either I forgot what year he came out, or he might have been just an older rookie. Yeah, 2020 draft. I remember doing draft coverage of him for the station. So yeah, he was just an old rookie, which happens sometimes. But he had the best year of his career by far. someone's going to pay him a lot of money. He was on a 1-year deal, and he was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. That's how good he was. The secondary's built to last. They're built to be really, really good in the secondary. So all that's true. I think for me, the couple of things that would, if I'm the Eagles, not concern me. I think you're on top of the world right now. I think the reasons why you would say, if you're going to argue, here's why the Eagles are not the favorites to repeat or aren't going to win the East because the Commanders are behind them or, whatever. This is going to be, with Kellen Moore taking the Saints job, reportedly by everyone and their grandmother at this point, that is going to be 4 different offensive play caller coordinators in 4 years for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
That's really, really hard to manage. It's amazing he's been to the Super Bowl with 2 of them. Shane Steichen, really good at his job. Maybe not a great people manager as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator and play caller, really, really good at his job. Kellen Moore, obviously, good at his job, found a great balance. This is what the great coordinators do, or play callers do. They find a balance between what they want to run and what their quarterback likes the best. And the Chiefs have done it with Reed and Mahomes and the stuff from Texas Tech. My team, the Packers, have done it with, when Aaron Rodgers was around, what Matt LaFleur wanted to do with what Rodgers wanted to do. And I think Kellen Moore did that with Jalen Hurts. He's out. And you might say, okay, well, I mean, it's the Jalen Hurts offense anyway. Yeah, that works until it doesn't, like last year when Brian Johnson, in-house promotion, he was on the staff. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll just promote from within. We'll keep the continuity. The second half of the Eagles last season, we thought was the downfall of the team.
Yeah, we thought they were toast.
We thought they were cooked because of 1 year and 1 bad coordinator hire. So that can turn on a dime. The other thing, they did get very fortunate with injury health, with injury games lost, which you can never plan for. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, when you have a lot of health 1 year, you're not quite as healthy the next year. The Chiefs are an example of that because the Chiefs have been insanely healthy the last 2 seasons, still mostly healthy this year, but guys got banged up. They lost their number 1 receiver, who we might not want to talk about it because it was a long time ago that he got hurt. Rashee Rice changes this offense significantly. Mm-hmm. You know why? He can get open.
Yeah. But will he get suspended?
We never got
I don't think he will. Maybe 4 games.
We never got to see the vision for what the Chiefs offense was supposed to look like in 2024.
And Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood Brown getting hurt right out the gate.
We never got to see what it was supposed to look like. What the plan was going into the season. We never got to see it. And I think that's probably the what if I have for this Chiefs season. That and what if they just wrote it out with Kingsley Suamataia and said, oh, you had a bad game against the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. Get him next week, kid.
The one thing I will say in terms of how to build a roster, Howie Roseman's done it better than anybody else in the NFL right now because he gets ragged. And I was listening to this on a podcast last night right after the game. How people make fun of him. Oh, well, people love Howie Roseman just because he ends up drafting the guys that all the media members say that he should draft. I mean, yeah, that's true. That was kind of a joke during the draft this year. But, hey, you know what that means? They drafted Cooper DeJean later than everybody else did. And when he became a full-time starter, the Eagles, statistically speaking, had the best defense in the NFL from the week he started starting full-time, week 4, until the end of the season. He drafted Quinyon Mitchell right around when the projection was. Yep. Quinyon Mitchell started from day 1, and he fleeced other...
The year before that, he gets the open box special on Jalen Carter. Yep. Jalen Carter may have gone 1-1 in the draft 2 years ago had he not driven away from a dying teammate while they were road racing.
Yeah.
Like, they got the open box special on Jalen Carter at 9 overall, and now he's the next Aaron Donald. Like, they have drafted...
He's a little dirty, though.
He has drafted exceptionally well.
Yeah. And even the pro personnel, like the free agency trades. The A.J. Brown trade, one of the worst trades in NFL history. The Titans were like, what if we don't pay a top 5 wide receiver and just give him away for nothing? Okay,
cool. We'll just draft Treylon Burks. It'll be fine.
Yeah, no, great. And you can say, well, anybody would have made that trade. Yeah, but they didn't. The Eagles did end up making that trade. Anyone could have gotten Saquon Barkley. Yeah, but did they? No. The Eagles did. And the Eagles have built through the trenches. Build your football team based on the line.
And I feel like they've always, like, not always, but for the last like 10 years, they've had a great offensive line, and they
Going back to their first Super Bowl.
They just continue to just find guys that are perfect replacements. But I want to get one thing in. I want to talk about Vic Fangio. Dude was run out of town from Miami, basically, because he wanted to be a coach. Because he wanted to coach, and what does he do? He coaches a team to one of the best defensive seasons we've seen in a long time. He says Zach Bond, a guy who is basically no one. Hey, we're gonna take your hand out off the ground, and we're gonna move you to linebacker. Let's just see how this goes. Dude's an all-pro.
Yeah, no, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Vic Fangio next to Saquon Barkley. You could certainly argue, given the way the season played out, those are the two most impactful free agent signings in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Two things I want to get to before we take a timeout. The Gilliland family watching on YouTube, I left this comment. Appreciate you for watching today. Can the Eagles sustain it? You have to have an all-timer at quarterback and an all-time front office. Not confident they can sustain. It's super hard to sustain. Yeah. We talk about it all the time.
That's why the Chiefs are such legends.
Yes, the league pulls you down to the middle. It is hard to sustain it. Do they have an all-time front office? Yes. Howie Roseman's going to the Hall of Fame. Like,
yeah, he's been amazing.
At this point, Howie Roseman is an all-timer as a runner of a team and a general manager. They have an all-timer at quarterback. Listen, if Lamar Jackson had just done what Jalen Hurts had just done, or Josh Allen, you would have no doubts in that team's staying power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts has gotten to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. Now he's won 1. Now he's got something that Lamar doesn't have, that Josh Allen doesn't have, that Joe Burrow doesn't have. None of his peers have what Jalen Hurts has, which is a win over Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. If you weren't thinking about Jalen Hurts as an elite guy, you might want to start. Last thing I want to get to from the text line real quick, from the 785, and this is something that speaks to what we have talked about with regard to the Chiefs, the thing that helps the Eagles right now. A lot of the Eagles are on rookie contracts, the texter says. And that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
The more studs you have on their rookie deals, particularly if it's the quarterback, you're playing the game on easy mode. That's all about drafting. The Eagles have drafted so exceptionally well the last 3 years that they have a bunch of guys on rookie contracts, which made it possible for them to go sign Saquon Barkley and add him to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith while giving Jalen Hurts a nice contract. Not a bank-breaking deal for a quarterback, but a nice, fair contract for a player of his caliber. That's absolutely true. The Chiefs played on easy mode, and they went to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. Then it got hard after they had to pay Mahomes, but they had a great draft class in 2022 that softened the blow. Guys like Bolton and McDuffie and Humphrey and Smith have been huge contributors to going to 3 Super Bowls and winning 2. How do the Eagles play it once those guys get expensive? That is the next question, and that is what will determine ultimately whether this is one championship in the midst of a Chiefs run or if this is the start of something in the city of brotherly love. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, it's time for What Is Wrong With You? So what is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? It's our first one of this new week, and it's sponsored by our good pal, State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle. Give him a shout. RyanMowinkle.com is the website. That's MOHWINKLE. See what Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you.
Mo, big Washburn guy, also has KU and K-State ties. Really, he had no way to lose this weekend.
Yeah, he's playing both sides, so he always comes out on top.
Yeah, worked
and
out.
So will you if you shoot Ryan Mowinkle a note and check his website out, RyanMowinkle.com. 2 new stories today. Spencer, lead us off for the week, please.
All right, we're going back to our favorite place, this time Palm Coast, Florida. A Palm Coast man was arrested following a string of home appliance thefts in Florida, according to deputies. Throughout the month of January, 50-year-old James Shepard stole 22 home appliances from home construction sites in Flagler and St. Johns County. According to both Flagler and St. Johns County Sheriff's offices, they said cameras captured Shepard driving through communities under construction, entering homes, removing the appliances, and placing them in the bed of his truck. The stolen appliances range from refrigerators, ovens, dishwashers, washing machines, and dryers, along with smaller items such as doorknobs, paint, air filters, and tile grout. So far, deputies believe he committed 8 burglaries in St. Johns County. He was arrested on January 21st after finding the items in the storage unit belonging to Shepard. The day prior, they arrested and charged Shepard for driving with an expired license and driving a vehicle with a stolen license plate. A full-size refrigerator, later determined to be stolen, was also in the truck during the arrest. Investigators said he would often swap vehicles and license plates during this string of thefts. He's now facing burglary of an unoccupied dwelling, petty theft, and grand theft.
That's a lot of appliances. Was he trying to furnish, like, was he starting his own like hotel or Airbnb or?
Yeah, maybe
it doesn't really say.
Chain.
He doesn't give the reasoning behind.
By the way, this is not really relevant to the story. This guy looks like Dennis Dodd. Friend of the program, CBS Sports college sports writer.
He
Dennis
does.
Dodd looks just like him.
He does. He does look like Dennis Dodd.
Dennis lives in St. Louis, though. This is not, or KC. He's in Missouri somewhere.
I can't unsee it now. Thank you for that.
Looks just like him.
22 home appliances. Yeah, I hope he wasn't just hoarding them. He probably had like grand plans to furnish like this Airbnb or something like that.
Maybe.
Make his own. All right, Brendan, you've been sitting on your story for a week. Give it to us.
All right, I will read you the headline from the Sun tabloid in Britain. Woman 25 faces jail after bombarding her boyfriend's ex with videos of her farting.
Okay.
It is believed to be Britain's first ever cyber farting case.
Cyber farting. Yeah, okay.
A young woman appeared in court today to plead guilty to harassment in the first case of its kind after sending videos of herself farting. 25-year-old Rhiannon Evans was hauled before magistrates for, quote, causing distress or anxiety to her boyfriend's ex-partner, Deborah Prythrich. We're going to go with Prythrich here. Continue a lot of pictures here. In Britain's first ever cyber farting case, Evans bombarded her with several inappropriate videos of herself passing wind that were considered indecent or grossly offensive. Prosecutor Diane Williams told magistrates at Caernarfon, North Wales, they're Welsh. That's why this is all hard to pronounce.
Yeah, that's all the lies. Yeah.
That in the first video message, she proceeds to pass gas by placing the camera on her bottom and then passing the gas.
Sure.
On December 22nd, there were 3 more videos of her letting rip. Miss Williams said that over the course of the next few days, another 4 videos were sent of the same nature, showing Miss Evans passing wind, her face smiling at the camera. Her tooting continued on Boxing Day and New Year's Day, despite police getting wind of what happened. Miss Prytchurch's victim statement, read to the court, said, "I would like to feel safe in my home."
Sure.
When Evans was arrested at her home, she admitted she had indeed sent the videos. Yeah, her face was in the video. The prosecutor adds, she suggested she wanted to send videos because she felt her partner was being treated unfairly. She was originally charged with malicious communications. The defense attorney, Harriet Gorst, come on, like a goofy name, Gorst.
Okay.
There are some issues going on between Miss Evans' partner and his ex-partner with regard to child contact. Okay, obviously that is unfortunate. The lawyer said at the time she sent these videos, she had some drinks and she sent them, understanding this has caused the victim some distress.
She also had some bean burritos.
She was handed a 12-month community order. It's community service, effectively. Her stance on the matter, quote, I never thought farting would land me in court. I think the sentence is a bit excessive and dramatic. We are living in a very snowflake generation.
Well, hey, look, if it makes me a snowflake not to want to receive videos of somebody farting on my phone repeatedly, then I guess I'm a snowflake. I guess that makes me a snowflake. I'll be that.
Yes. Dear various exes, do not send your current partner's ex videos of you ripping it. Do not do that. You will go to court.
Do we know, like, it was authentic flatulence? She wasn't, like, stepping on a whoopee cushion out of frame or something?
I mean, they said she put the phone on her bottom.
Oh, I guess they did, yeah.
The picture vibrate a little bit.
Oh, my God.
Smell-o-vision.
Ew.
By
By the way, no pun intended when I said I was sitting on this story for several days.
Vance in the YouTube comments says she really had to vent.
Gross.
Oh
man.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be the winner today.
Yeah.
The farting lady. We come up with a better name than that, I'm sure. But
The farting lady.
gassy lady.
Oh, by the way, I should also add this woman was sentenced to rehab for this incident.
What?
For farting? You go to
Yeah,
rehab
she's going
for
to
farting?
gas blasting rehab.
Please don't tell my wife that exists. I'll never see you guys again.
Oh, man.
What is wrong with you?
I'm so glad you guys didn't use this story last week. I've had it up on my work desktop in my office for 2 weeks now.
What is wrong with you is sponsored by State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle. Go to ryanmowinkle.com. Check out his website. See what Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. Text to 785 says a real gas act. I think that's our winner.
That's the name.
Gas act.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine doing that to someone? Like, I'm so upset at this other person. I'm going to take a video of me tooting and send it to them repeatedly.
I fart in your general direction.
Put her phone on her butt, man. Really hammer it home.
We're going to take time out. Speaking of a fart, the Super Bowl kind of was last night, but what about all the other stuff around the game? The broadcast, halftime, the commercials, all that. We'll talk about that stuff next on 580 Sports Talk.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down. Get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay can gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avastin-capted Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
WIBW, Topeka.
.444 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer hanging out with you on this Monday. Super Bowl 59 in the books. We've gnawed on the game quite a bit, and still some meat left on that bone for us a little bit later on in the show. But I want to get into all of the other stuff that goes along with the broadcast of the world's biggest sporting event. Man, Champions League final, Dan. Shut up. This is the Super Bowl. Come on.
I saw some of that yesterday.
It's and I'm not anti-soccer. I'm a soccer guy, but come on, it's the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl.
I'm anti-soccer.
biggest sporting event in America. We can compromise. Anyhow,
And thus the world.
the Fox broadcast, Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady in the broadcast booth. I will give Brady this. He was very quick to see that Patrick Mahomes was no longer trusting his pass protection, and I thought made some really good points about that. Some of the finer points of what he was seeing and playing quarterback. That's the first time I've ever listened to Tom Brady, and he's been doing this all year, where I felt like he added anything to the broadcast. Generally speaking, not super impressed with him. Kevin Burkhardt's a really good play caller, and I think he does a really nice job on play-by-play. I just can't help but think that I would have liked Greg Olsen in the booth a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Greg Olson's good at what he does, and Tom Brady is not. Now, I will give Tom Brady this. He is number one among all NFL broadcasters, play-by-play or color commentators. Number one in terms of guys who look the most like Skeletor from He-Man.
Did you see in the YouTube comments earlier? I don't remember who it was. Somebody said he needs to eat a burger or two.
Yeah.
Tom Brady was always known as like a clean-cut, good-looking dude. Why did he get all of his facial fat removed?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He does.
He looks like hell.
He looks ridiculous. Barbara on YouTube, she says, I have to mute Kevin now because of Brady. I don't blame you. And I like Kevin Burkhardt. I think he does a really good job. He's a very steady, quality, meets the moment kind of play-by-play guy for football. I don't understand. He did at one point, though, you could tell he's getting ready for baseball season and Fox's coverage of baseball, because instead of saying something happened in the next-gen stats era, he said something hadn't happened in the StatCast era during the game. That was very funny. Yeah, Brady's just bad. He's not. He's
mistook Jahan Dotson for Jawan Taylor.
Yes,
he did.
I did hear that.
Yeah, I remember
and I was
that
like,
too.
how?
Yeah, he called him Jawan Dotson. I remember.
Yeah.
It's mean to pick on someone as much as I'm picking on Tom Brady. He also has so much money and power and fame that I don't really feel that bad about it.
And you shouldn't.
During the opening song with Lady Gaga, it was just a pretty cool scene. And, they had
Out on
some
Bourbon Street,
NFL people and first responders and stuff all walk up to her piano. Why was he wearing a T-shirt tucked into dress pants? That's the first thing I said. He and Michael Strahan are walking in with their LA Strong, NOLA Strong T-shirts. Strahan looks normal. He's talking to the camera. He's done this for a long time. Brady has a half tucked in T-shirt into black dress pants.
I think he's trying to be cool.
I didn't think that looked cool.
No, I think he was trying to think he would be cool if he did that.
I don't get the Brady thing. I really don't.
The score bug on Fox.
Ugly.
My wife liked it. I thought it felt.
Mine did too.
I thought it felt unfinished. Like they forgot to finish it.
I didn't like when they would switch from the actual score to a graphic. Eagles have 10 for 10 on their first 10 third down, whatever it was. There was no background to it, so you just saw like white font on light green turf. Like, that's very hard to see. If they had just put a colored background behind it,
I think
fine.
I think they were trying to go for the transparent aspect.
They were looking for retro, it feels like. But, like, if you want to go full retro, just put it up real small in the corner where they all used to be. Like, if you're going for retro and unobtrusive, just bring back the OG Fox box. That would be fine.
Did you see the?
It doesn't need to be all.
It got leaked. Apparently, it had got leaked that Fox was going with a new score bug, but they leaked the wrong score bug. What they had leaked looked pretty cool, and this one looked ugly.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys don't mind seeing it a ton, because the networks for years now, they debut their new score bug when they have the Super Bowl, and then they keep it until their next rotation. ABC, ESPN, Disney are being added into the mix, so it's now 4 years until Fox's next Super Bowl.
At least because the NFL has in 2029, they can renegotiate their contracts.
The networks used to debut new themes, like their game themes. Like go back and watch coverage of the Broncos 49ers Super Bowl 1989. It's a familiar sounding theme. CBS ended up pulling it from its NFL and using it for college football for a lot of years. It was the SEC on CBS.
Interesting.
That was the debut. The music we came to know as the SEC on CBS was the Broncos 49ers Super Bowl in 89.
I noticed the Big Ten on CBS music. Speaking of Fox, did you find it strange that they did a whole retrospective on Jimmy Johnson's career only to then come out today and say, actually, he's not retiring? Like, that seemed like a send-off during the pregame show. They did a whole AI-generated history of Jimmy Johnson, and then they're like, oh, yeah, no, he's not retiring. Well, then why'd you do that?
Because you need a fill.
I guess. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Halftime. I doubled back, watched it today. Kendrick Lamar. I thought he'd do more older songs. Did a lot more.
A lot from the new album.
A lot of the new album stuff.
It was a statement.
I saw a lot of people saying that. Oh, there's so much subtext. Nah, man. That was text. Like, it was very clear what Kendrick Lamar was going for. Like, all you had to do was have your ears open, and like Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam. Saying exactly what he thought of that production as it was happening. Like, no, it was all text. It was well done. It was good storytelling. I like his songs. My question to everybody who says, and we have a couple of texts and comments from the YouTube said it was bad halftime show. It was ugly. Didn't like it. Did you not like the show, or do you not like the music? Because there's two different things.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the music, that's fine. But I thought as show, as spectacle, as storytelling, I thought that was really well done.
I thought it was sick. They were coming out of the car.
Yeah, that was pretty. It was like a clown car. They had all sorts of people coming out of it.
That Grand National,
No, I mean, I've paid my own money to go see Kendrick Lamar in concert in person multiple times. Like, I'm a huge fan, so I loved it.
The whole stadium hit the A minor.
So you could hear it on Fox, the A minor line. You could hear the crowd getting into it. I saw a video on social media from someone inside the stadium. Fox did not do it justice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be the loudest it was the entire day. Oh my God, it was loud.
Because everybody,
Drake.
I thought there would have
Cheshire grin when he started addressing Drake directly. That everybody's made this same joke, but yes, hard to have a worse night than the Chiefs did last night, but Drake may have.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Drake.
He probably lost a bet too.
Serena Williams with the crip walk.
Yeah, Serena Williams.
I didn't realize who that was for a second. Olivia and I looked at each other. We're like, "Who is that?" I said, "Is that one of the Williams sisters?" And then we like saw it on.
Yeah,
online.
I didn't know she dated Drake.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Drake was like really weird and creepy about her, and then like
shocking.
Dissed her. Yeah. Drake being weird and creepy about women and inappropriate. Yeah, and not him. Weird. The only surprising thing is that Serena was of age when he decided he would hit on her. Again,
A minor
certified lover boy.
I'm not going to say that word, but I'm not Kendrick Lamar.
Real quick, did you have a favorite or least favorite commercial that's
Hold on, can I say one thing? He didn't play Mad City. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, didn't do the older stuff. I was a
little
disappointed.
I wanted Money Trees, Backseat Freestyle too, but he did the new stuff, and the new stuff sounded great.
Yeah.
Favorite or not favorite commercials? One commercial or two stand out?
I thought the Dunkin' commercial at the very start was pretty funny. Jay and Silent Bob made an appearance.
Hey.
That was awesome. I also found out this weekend my dad is disgusted by Bill Belichick dating a 24-year-old. I was on the phone with him a couple hours before kickoff yesterday. He is disgusted by it. I was like, yeah, I agree. It's gross. He couldn't get over it. It's awful.
I like the Budweiser ad with the horse finding the barrel.
Sure.
The,
Love the Clydesdales.
Yeah.
Puppy Monkey Baby returned.
Yes. Yeah, Puppy Monkey Baby came back. I enjoyed Seal as a seal singing out Mountain Dew Baja Blast. I thought that was really funny in a stupid way. Also, shout out to Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson getting a commercial. The guys from Detroiters, and I think you should leave, getting a commercial where they murder an alien.
Shout out to
for the
Peyton.
pizza rolls. And Tim Robinson says, it's actually not that tragic for us. We didn't know him like you guys did. The kids are horrified. It was a very good commercial.
Shout out to Peyton Manning doing a thing in a commercial and then actually doing it in real life.
Giving Bud Light to people?
Yeah, the Bud Light tractor thing.
I completely missed that one.
That was at the end of the game. It was he was celebrating with the fans or something.
We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this hour at 580 Sports Talk next. Wrapping up hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk. If you listen to the Thursday show, Spencer and I gave you our favorite prop bets for the Super Bowl from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. And if you bet like we bet, like we told you to bet, all the props we told you to bet, we would have made you money. And that would have mostly have been Spencer.
That's like me with my Super Bowl scoring.
I was correct on the first half over. It did hit by 0.5 point. And I was correct on the under Travis Kelce receiving yards, 16.5. Didn't get close. Spencer hit on a couple of his bigger bets. The biggest one being a DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown. That one cashed in at odds of plus 480. Also, Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 total touchdowns cashed late in the game, plus 180. All told, the total payout with a $200 investment on our bets would have paid out $236.82. So $36.82, what you would have made if you'd have bet with Spencer and I. And hey, buy a nice carton of eggs. That's what we call topical humor in the biz, folks.
Nice.
Brendan is out of here. He is going to give back to his alma mater, give back some time to the youths at KJHK out there in Lawrence.
Yes, indeed. Very excited to see the old stomping grounds and talk to the next generation of people who are going to be a lot better at this than me.
Yeah, that's the danger, right?
Yep.
You big them up and then they take your job someday. So Brendan's out, but we still got one more hour of the show to get to. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. There was a basketball game on Saturday, pretty important in the state that we'll get to. So if you're a Chiefs and K-State fan, it will give you a reason to smile. If you're a Chiefs and a KU fan, nothing to smile about in your life.
That's the sneaky reason I'm actually
As
leaving.
Brendan leaves.
Plan, of course, our final thoughts on Super Bowl 59. That's all coming up with one more hour to go on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour of a Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk, coming to you live and direct from the capital city on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream. We are live on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the channel. You can also watch us on our Facebook page, WIBW News. Hello to everybody who might be watching the show archived. You can watch all of our archived shows on 580 Sports Talk. And hello to anybody listening to the podcast after the fact. You can find the podcast of the show each day at 580WIBW.com and also on Spotify by searching for 580 Sports Talk. If you do listen to us on Spotify, hit us up with a review, a rating, give us 5 stars. Leave us a nice review.
We got 2 new followers, too.
Love to see it. Follow the show, review the show, rate the show. That's a huge boost for us. We appreciate it. If you do check us out on Spotify, the podcast, again, 580 Sports Talk. I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is across the glass. Brendan Dworzinski, again, out for the rest of today. He'll be back tomorrow. We got one more hour show today, the day after a Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, 40-22. They say the scoreboard never lies. That is the most dishonest scoreboard maybe in Super Bowl history. That scoreboard at the end of Super Bowl 59 as the Eagles dominate the Chiefs for 60 minutes on their way to their second title in franchise history, denying the Chiefs their opportunity at a three-peat. We will have our final thoughts on the game itself coming up this hour. Also, some thoughts on Saturday's Sunflower Showdown. K-State, for the 3rd straight year, beats KU at Bramlage, 81-73. The final score on Saturday. The Tang Gang stays red hot, and KU still has the same problem. And it's a problem that's probably going to send them home early from the NCAA tournament if it is not immediately addressed. And I'm not entirely sure what's going to have to happen for it to be addressed. We'll talk about both sides of that Saturday showdown coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, we got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Folks in the YouTube chat clamoring for some baseball talk, among other things. And Vance, I can promise you and everybody else, pitchers and catchers report this week, we are going to get to some baseball this week on the program. That I can very much promise you. We have got, obviously, some excitement about the Royals coming off of a playoff appearance last year. And you know me. I've said on this show, I'm a firm believer that the only sport that really matters at the end of the day is baseball. That's how I feel. So don't you worry. We'll get plenty of baseball as this week goes on. And, of course, as we get closer to the start of spring training in Surprise, Arizona. Appreciate those of you who are commenting, interacting in the live chat on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk, again, is the name of the channel. If you're new to the channel, checking us out on the stream for the first time, subscribe to the channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can also text the program. Text line's been busy today. Hit us up, 785-272-9429. We're going to start this 5 o'clock hour, as we do every 5 o'clock hour on the program, with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And if you're a longtime listener, these are going to sound a little different. These are actually headlines. These are ripped from the headlines that we will discuss as we go along today. And obviously, the big headline in the world of sports today is Super Bowl 59. The headline from the front page of the Philadelphia Inquirer's website earlier today: Super Birds. Jalen Hurts' improbable path to Super Bowl MVP removes any doubt about the quarterback. Spencer, I think it is noteworthy, and I think it's actually kind of neat, that of the elite class of quarterbacks in the NFL, which is obviously Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow's in that mix, and now Jalen Hurts is in that mix because he's got what those last 3 names I just ran off does not have, and that is a Super Bowl ring. And, a Super Bowl MVP to go along with it. Jalen Hurts is now in that particular weight class. He belongs in the conversation with Mahomes and his MVP peers, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And I think the neat thing about that group of 5 guys, and even the guys who are like right there on the precipice, like Jaden Daniels is close. This is a really likable group of guys. Like, unless you are like just a diabolical hater, like you hate the Eagles, so you don't like Jalen Hurts, I get it. You hate the Chiefs, so you don't like Patrick Mahomes. Trust me, I've heard from those folks. That was like winning a Super Bowl for Bronco fans yesterday. Didn't ask me how I know, but quarterbacks, a group that seem to be good guys off the field. They're about the right things. They're good teammates. They play the game the right way. They respect their opponents. They're coachable. All those things. Like you would be happy in any of the cities in which those quarterbacks are playing to point to that player and say, this is a role model. This isn't just a great player. This is a role model. This is somebody you want to aspire to be like if you are an athlete. And I've always felt that way about Jalen Hurts. I mean, if you remember Jalen Hurts getting benched at halftime of the national championship game for a lot of people, that would have been the last we ever heard of that person, that quarterback. Jalen Hurts would have been a footnote in the Tua Tagovailoa story at that point, a footnote in the Alabama football story. Jalen Hurts does not transfer after that season, right? He sticks around. He backs up the freshman who stole his job at halftime of the biggest game of his life. And not only does he stick around to back him up, he has to come in relief in the SEC championship game that year and leads the comeback, and they win that game. Then he transfers to Oklahoma, and he's the starter there, and he has a really nice year playing for Lincoln Riley. And the ongoing thread with Jalen Hurts is that he gets a little bit better. He improves a little bit. Then he gets to the league, and he's a starter, and he gets a little bit better and a little bit better, and finds himself in a Super Bowl and plays phenomenally. If you want to say that Jalen Hurts has outplayed Patrick Mahomes twice in 2 Super Bowls against Mahomes, there's no arguing that he outplayed him yesterday. You could credibly argue that Hurts was the better quarterback in Super Bowl 57 as well. You could. You really could. Loses that game, goes through what he and his teammates went through last year. And I admit, like, we had this discussion, Spencer, when we were ranking the quarterbacks in the league in the offseason. I was the high man on Hurts.
Yeah.
You and Brendan both had him outside of your top 10 in the league, I believe. But rediscovers his mojo this season, plays good football down the stretch, and plays brilliantly in the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl MVP, and now has, again, what other than Mahomes, his peers do not have.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I had him at number 9.
okay, yeah, you had him on the fringe of the top 10. I think I had him 6. I was high man on him. I
will say, right above him, C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, Herbert.
Yeah, like, it was a defensible position to take, I think, at the time. I think it's going to look a little different when we reconvene and do these lists again next year, for sure. But I think that there's a lot to be said for how Hurts conducts himself, handles himself, goes about his business. I think that he goes about, moves through life with a lot of grace, with a lot of humility, with a lot of poise, a lot of confidence, and I think he's really admirable. I think he's an admirable player, and I think that is a guy who is now poised to join that group of quarterbacks that we didn't maybe think he was capable of joining over the long haul. So
yeah, and I
give the man his flowers.
I mean, I'll give the man his flowers, but I do think we, even in the season, questioned him, right? Questioned him going into the NFC title game because they really pretty much, it felt like, rode the coattails of Saquon Barkley all season long. Well, what happens? The Chiefs defense did the one thing they wanted to do, and they shut him out. What is it, 2.4 yards per carry?
If you had come up to me before the game and given me Saquon Barkley's stat line on the ground of 25 carries for 57 yards, I would have said, oh my gosh, I'll see you at the parade at Union Station on Wednesday, because there's no way the Chiefs don't win that game.
Exactly. That was my
So
take
even
too.
we that in and of itself is a bit of like non-belief in Jalen Hurts, right?
Yeah.
But Hurts goes out, throws for 221, 2 touchdowns. I also threw a pick. That wasn't very good. But then he rushes for 72 yards and a score.
Well, I think that, so when you look back at that game plan, the game plan was obviously to stop Saquon, but it didn't factor in Jalen Hurts' running ability, I don't think. And I think that he beat him a lot more than, I mean, obviously not the big gains, but, you know,
in the third quarter,
7, 9, those yards stack up and stack up and stack up.
There were some big scrambles in the second half on that field goal drive. Ended up putting up 27-0. There were some big scrambles.
But this all goes back to the fact that he had a lingering knee issue into the playoffs. So
yeah,
he ran a little bit more against the Commanders, but still didn't think he was going to be the leading rusher.
Yeah, and he did. He looked like that week off between the NFC title game and the Super Bowl must have done his knee some good. So again, I think he's a guy who deserves a lot of credit, and a guy I think is really admirable, and I think he's got a great story. And I don't know that he would have had my Super Bowl MVP vote. If you had a Super Bowl MVP vote, who would have gotten it? I think now we've started kind of default to the quarterback gets it.
Yeah, but I think I would have gone with Josh Sweat.
Josh Sweat or Cooper DeJean. I honestly thought one of them was going to win it. And that's not because, again, like Hurts, not like he was lousy. He counted for 3 touchdowns, but the story of that game is the defense.
Yeah.
But for the quarterback position, you were defined on how you do in these big games. And now Jalen Hurts has done a thing that all these guys that we've thought were not just better, but miles better than Jalen Hurts have never done. That is beat Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl and beat him in a big game, because Josh Allen's never beaten him in a big game, and Lamar Jackson's never beaten him in a big game. And now here's Jalen Hurts, and he's done that and deserves the credit for it. All right, what's our next headline, Spencer?
Let me get back over to the page here. We've got from ESPN, Chiefs Ravens co-favored to win next year's Super Bowl, according to Vegas.
So the ESPN bet board, which is what Nancy ESPN's obviously in-house sports book, have the Ravens and the Chiefs at plus 650 to win the Super Bowl in the 2025 NFL season. The Bills, Lions, and Eagles are all three at plus 700. So those are your next year's favorites looking ahead. That feels like a pretty good place to start next season. You know, there will be that team that feels like they're on the rise, and I certainly feel like your Commanders, Spencer, are going to be a team that gets a lot of attention in the betting markets at this stage. A lot of people will be early adopters on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders for next year.
Yeah, currently sitting at plus 2,000 though.
I don't hate that.
I don't know.
That might I don't know. That might tell Olivia put her winnings for last night on that. You let it ride. Let it ride on the Manders plus 2,000 for next year. But those are the early betting odds. All of the major nationwide sports books have the Commanders as one of the most bet teams in the 2026 Super Bowl market. Also, the Bengals are plus 1,600. I wouldn't touch that. I don't know what that roster is going to look like. But of those 5 teams, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Lions, and the Eagles, I will say this. I think a credible case can be made, and we're going to talk about it as the week goes on. A credible case can be made that the team with the most questions about what they're going to look like next year is the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I've pointed this out here and there in a little bit, and when I've been on a podcast with somebody, I pointed out the fact, like, they've got little amount of money to stretch pretty far for what they need, and there's a lot of guys that are going to get paid elsewhere, and it's like a winning team for you, though, right?
Yeah,
that's what happens.
It always happens.
Yeah,
it always happens to the successful team. Next headline from K-State Athletics. Earlier today, Wells named offensive coordinator in a move that should come as no surprise after Connor Riley decamped from Manhattan to Dallas to join the Cowboys coaching staff at the end of last week. Chris Kleiman has chosen to promote from within, and Matt Wells will be the offensive coordinator for the Kansas State Wildcats. He was the co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach and associate head coach last season. Not a surprise, certainly. I'm not surprised that they did not go outside the family. They typically have not for the offensive coordinator hires under Chris Kleiman. They've all been promotions since Courtney Messingham was fired. It was Colin Klein got the promotion, and Connor Riley got the promotion. They brought in Matt Wells from the outside, but he had a year to learn and be a part of the staff, and now he's being promoted to offensive coordinator as well. I didn't get a chance to weigh in on Connor Riley leaving for the Cowboys. I think that's a really cool thing for Connor Riley. I think it came completely out of left field.
Yeah.
It was not something that was on my radar, that there was a possibility that he was going to go from college to the NFL. But Cowboys have obviously had their eyes on Kansas State for a long time, drafted Cooper Beebe, drafted Deuce Vaughn a few years back. So if it was going to happen anywhere, I guess I'm not surprised that it was with the Cowboys. So congrats to him. I will be interested to see who ends up being the offensive line coach, if that's a job where K-State decides to hire from outside the program. But I think Matt Wells can do some good things as the full-time offensive coordinator. I'm also a big believer in just having one guy be the OC. I think that's a little cleaner. I think that if it's one vision for the offense, or two, I guess, because the head coach is always involved. But if you would compare that to it being then three visions for the offense with co-OCs and the head coach, the fewer cooks in the kitchen, the better.
Yeah.
And I think that will benefit Avery Johnson as a junior, in addition to having had a year to work with Matt Wells directly. And I'm excited still for what the Kansas State offense is going to look like in 2025. I think it's going to be electric.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have co-offensive coordinators and one leaves for a higher paying gig in another league, this is the least shocking thing I expected. Like, I expected this to happen. It's just who are they going to come in and who's going to be the offensive line coach now?
Yeah, be fascinated to see who they hire there. We have one more headline. Give it to me.
Yes, the AP polls came out. Auburn edges Alabama to remain number one in the AP top 25 despite losses. Duke and Florida tied at number 3. UConn drops out of the poll.
Yeah, UConn, the two-time defending champions, not ranked. They had a big early lead against St. John's, let it get away. St. John's up to number 9 in the country. That loss by K-State at St. John's looks better and better by the day. Was a little surprised Auburn stayed number 1 after they lost to Florida on Saturday. I thought Alabama might jump them, but that was not the case. Kansas dropped 1 spot after losing the Sunflower Showdown on Saturday. They are now number 17. Teams from the Big 12 ranked ahead of them. Houston dropped a spot there at number 6. Iowa State's down 2 spots there at number 10. Texas Tech up a spot to number 12. Arizona up 7 spots to number 13. So, yes, Texas Tech is ranked above Arizona, despite those two teams having played each other on Saturday and Arizona winning the game by 9 points. That's it for the ranked teams in the Big 12 on the men's side. Over on the women's side, K-State drops 2 spots to number 14 after they took it on the chin against Oklahoma State on Saturday. Felt like after those 2 big games against Iowa State and against TCU, the K-State was ripe for a letdown on the road against a good team, and that is what happened. They lost by 30 in Stillwater on Saturday to Oklahoma State, 85-55. Oklahoma State, by the way, up 5 spots in the poll to number 20. So K-State at number 14, TCU, who, of course, lost to K-State earlier in the week, they're down to number 11 in the women's top 25. West Virginia's into the top 25 at number 18, and Baylor also new to the poll this week at number 25, rounding out Big 12 teams. UCLA remains number 1. They're the lone unbeaten in the country, 23-0.
I got one more tidbit to go along with Kansas State here.
Give it to me.
Seeing this on Twitter or X from Eden Lease Durowen. She covers women's hoops for Hoops HQ and Yahoo. She is an AP voter. She got off the phone with Jeff Mitty earlier today and doing a story, and they're getting closer to having a Oakley back, according to her. Jeff Mitty said they're eyeing a return for the second edition of Sunflower Showdown, February 22nd.
Oh, that'd be huge. And getting her back with a few games of a run-up before the Big 12 tournament would be absolutely huge for K-State. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, K-State 81, KU 73 on Saturday, and it wasn't that K-State won the game. It was how K-State won the game that stood out. We'll talk about it when we come back on 580 Sports Talk. .529 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Spencer hanging out with you. Got another half hour on the show. Coming up at 6 o'clock, it's the final Chiefs Kingdom show of the 2024 season. Mitch will find a way to make it as fun as it will be possible to be following the Super Bowl loss, I'm sure. But you'll hear from Mitch and Andy Reid and everybody on the Chiefs Kingdom show. Following that, 7 o'clock, tape delayed, the Jeff Mittie show. We'll hear from the head coach of the 14th ranked Kansas State women. I hear on the Sports Voice of Kansas. I was at Bramlage on Saturday afternoon. They had me in the rafters, but there are no bad seats to the Octagon of Doom. And Kansas State, for a third straight season, beats Kansas in Manhattan, a feat they had not accomplished since the early 80s. 81-73, the final score. And I have watched enough Kansas basketball games in my life that I have come to expect that even when things look grim for Bill Self's Jayhawks, they're going to make a push. They're going to make a run. They're going to strike fear into their opponents. They're not going to go down without a fight. And I sat there at Bramlage throughout a second half in which K-State led for the better part of it by double figures, and I waited for the run. I waited for that 8-0 run that would tighten everybody up at Bramlage. and force Jerome Tang to call a timeout, maybe cause a little panic and concern on that Kansas State bench. I waited and I waited, and then I looked up and there was a minute and a half left, and K-State led by 13 points, and I said, it's not coming. It's not happening. KU doesn't have it in them. And K-State deserves credit for that in the sense that they were in control of the game. They didn't have a stretch where they had a bunch of bad possessions in a row. They didn't bat 1,000 on offense, but they didn't have a whole lot of possessions in a row where they just went quiet for like a 6-7 possession stretch, and they're turning the ball over. They're taking bad shots. They're giving up runouts, transition the other way. They just didn't have a sustained stretch like that. They were in command on offense. They could get to what they wanted to get to. And in the second half, what they wanted to get to and got to and made a lot of were open three-pointers. And they just didn't have the juice defensively or offensively that you need to go on a run. Because you know what going on a run entails? Not just that you score on one end. You have to get a stop. Okay, you couldn't get a stop. And in the first half, they couldn't get a stop because DeJuan Harris wasn't on the floor. I've said this before, and we saw it in the UCF game where Harris didn't play at all, that Harris on the court is sort of like the conductor on defense. He's the connector. He's the leader, the communicator. They just look different on defense when he's not on the court. DeJuan Harris played 4 minutes in the first half on Saturday.
That's crazy.
Because he picked up 3 fouls.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch the first half. I locked into the second half, and I was like, when are we going to see the momentum shift? Because it seems like K-State historically has what you were talking about, and it just didn't happen.
No, they were in command. That was as complete a 40 minutes as I think they've played against a really good team all year. And
I think Bill Self said it right. He said there was just nothing on defense for either team, really. He felt there was there wasn't great defense played on either side.
I think he's probably right about that. Certainly, I thought it was more great offense. There were a lot of layups. Both teams in this game got a lot of layups. But over time, it got a little harder for KU to get those things. And this is the thing that continues to be the issue with Kansas. And it's the thing that's going to limit them to another first weekend loss in the NCAA tournament if they don't get it figured out. Hunter Dickinson scored 21 points. You'll take that from him. I didn't think he was spectacular like he was in the first meeting against K-State, but he was good. Zeke Mayo, 15 points. That's not enough. They need more from him than that. But he wasn't, I didn't think he was terrible. He just, I've seen him play worse on the road than that. He's only averaging 10 a game on the road. He had 15. Nobody else did squat on offense for KU. Rylan Griffin couldn't make anything. He was 1 of 6 from 3. Good looks that just weren't finding the bottom of the net. And AJ Storr continues to just give you empty calories.
It just seems like AJ Storr and Rylan Griffin flip-flop of who's actually on one day and the other's not on. Who's on, who's off.
Yeah, if they ever get them both firing at the same time, you can see the vision. But that is not the problem that, they only had one of them. Neither of them really played well. Because, again, a lot of what Storr is giving you right now is just empty calorie scoring. He's not contributing rebounding. He's not contributing on defense. He's just giving you some buckets.
And he played the most time off the bench of anyone.
And if all you're getting is buckets, it better be more than 9 points on 10 shots. If that's your role is bucket getter, you better be more efficient at getting those buckets and more prolific at getting those buckets. And those guys on the wing have to make more of an impact because we know that for KU, Hunter Dickinson's going to score and Zeke Mayo's going to score. And DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams really aren't going to score. KJ got his because, again, there were a lot of layups in this game. Layups, dunks, rim running. KJ Adams is going to feast on that stuff. But those aren't reliable sources of scoring. KU needs a third and a fourth reliable source of buckets. That's why Storr's playing so dang much. Because he can at least score. And the thought is, okay, if he gets into the flow of the game, maybe he can be more of a contributor defensively, more comfortable on defense, more comfortable doing the other things he's going to need to do. And it just hasn't happened. It's just empty calorie buckets from AJ Storr. So it's a team that they appear to be still somehow a wing scorer short. And they brought in 2 guys that were supposed to fix that problem, and neither of them have. That's the KU aspect of it. K-State, over their last 5 games, is the best team in the country, according to Bart Torvik's metrics. They're up into the top 60 in Ken Palm. They're up into the top 45 in the country in Torvik for the full season. None of this is an accident. Like this 6-game winning streak for K-State, they're not tripping and falling into these wins. Like they dominated Iowa State in Ames at Hilton. They crushed overmatched teams like West Virginia and Oklahoma State. They handled business against Kansas at home. And the thing that stands out to me about watching them play right now, Jerome Tang said a lot that kind of made you roll your eyes at some of his press conferences when things weren't going well, when this team was 6-5 in the non-conference, when they lost 6 straight almost right out of the gate in Big 12 play. He kept saying, we're close. These guys are close. They're still working hard. They're still committed. And the other thing he said was they like each other. He was talking about the team chemistry even all the way back before the season even tipped off. Really believed in the team chemistry of this group of guys. And that's hard to see when you are losing 6 in a row. But when you turn around and you start winning 5 in a row like they have, I think I said 6 earlier. That was wrong. I conflated the length of the losing streak. My apologies. When you win 5 in a row, obviously everybody's going to feel good and everybody's going to be happy with that. But like you can see it on the court that the team chemistry is a factor. It looks like it's off the charts. Those guys are having fun playing basketball. You can tell. You can tell that Doug McDaniel, after a slow start, after coming off the bench, after some DNPs, he's found the joy in his game. Coleman Hawkins is playing with a lot of joy right now. And I know that sounds corny, but if you watch it, you can see it. And Jerome Tang insisted from the jump that these guys liked each other. And when you have a group of guys that does like each other and then they do start winning, that is the kind of thing that really begins to build. Vance in the YouTube comments, appreciate everybody watching on the YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. He asked me earlier in the hour, do you still think the K-State men don't have a chance to make the NCAA tournament? Vance, I will tell you this. I will be willing to entertain the possibility again if they can beat Arizona tomorrow night. And I think they can beat Arizona. I watched Arizona play Texas Tech. That was a good win for Arizona at home, late night on Saturday night. I shouldn't have stayed up that late. That was a really stupid thing of me to do with an 8-month-old. I should have taped the second half and watched it the next day or something. I can't be staying up that late, man. I'm washed. But I watched Arizona, and like, it's not as simple as saying, well, if Caleb Love has a bad shooting night, you can beat Arizona, because Caleb Love had a bad shooting night on Saturday and still played really well. CJ Moore laid this all out in his Monday top 25 column over at The Athletic. You should read our guy CJ. So it's not that simple to say, but it's a big part of it. Like, if you can fluster Caleb Love and get him out of his game, that's how you're going to pick Arizona off, particularly playing at home. I think the home court advantage is back. I think the students have been terrific. I think the fan base is, again, a little bit enthused about this team. And if they can go beat Arizona, again, like 13-11 would be the overall record. And that's not real good, but that would be another quality win. And it would plant the seed with the committee, because I don't think it's necessarily about just winning one game and, oh, now Joe Lenardi's got to take you seriously on Bubble Watch or whatever. But if K-State plays this kind of basketball the rest of the way that they have played the last 2.5 weeks, they may not win all the rest of their games, but they'll win enough of them. And then the committee is going to be confronted with, well, okay, this team clearly should not be judged by what it did in November and December. This is a different basketball team, and it's one that's playing as well as anybody in the country. And is that a team that we can leave out of the tournament? If they've done this, if they could go a full month and a half playing at this level, which, again, according to Torvik, the best team in the country during this winning streak, better than anybody you want to give me, Auburn, Duke, Florida, any of those great SEC teams, better than Houston, better than Iowa State, better than anybody in the Big 12, better than everyone. If they can sustain a level where they can say at the end of the year, yeah, we've got a record over 500 and we were in the top half of the Big 12 and we played better basketball than damn near the entire country for a month and a half going into the NCAA tournament, then they'll come up in the committee room at the very least. But what I've admired about this Kansas State team through all of this is that their odds of making the tournament were so low at 1-6 in the conference If they weren't 0.0 like Lutarski's GPA, they were damn close.
Yeah.
And they have played like that doesn't matter. They have played as though every game is the most important game. And winning the game will take care of everything else.
I think Tang said it right in the post-game presser. He was asked about this. He was asked how he thinks his team stacks up if they could make it to the NCAA tournament. And he said, we're just playing one game at a time. And if they continue to do that, then they'll see where the chips fall. But he doesn't make those decisions, so why does he care about it at this point?
Jason in the YouTube comments points out students did not rush the court at Bramlage. We had talked about Jerome Tang 2 years ago when they beat Kansas for the first time at home, and he said, I got you your one court storm. From here on out, expect to win. I think the students have internalized that and said, at the very least, we're going to expect to beat Kansas. We've done it every year, 3 straight years. There are students, there are juniors at K-State who don't know what it's like to lose the home game to Kansas in men's basketball. Why would that be a big deal? Why would you storm the court? They're only number 16 in the country. It's not that big a deal. Why would you storm the court if that's your perspective? Jerome Tang's never lost to them. David Gasson, he was so good on Saturday.
Yeah, well then,
Big 12 player of the week, David Gasson, by the way. Big 12 player of the week.
Back to your point about the no court storming. They win. He goes up in the stands and celebrates with the students.
Yeah, like we'll come to you.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll come to you. We'll celebrate with you. You stay off the court. Gene Taylor
saves
doesn't have
us some money.
Yeah, Gene Taylor doesn't have to write a check. That's very true. Another huge one coming up tomorrow night for K-State against Arizona. KU's got a stretch of their schedule where they ought to be able to get right, starting with Colorado still winless in the conference coming up tomorrow night at Allen Fieldhouse. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, final thoughts on a not-so-super Sunday on 580 Sports Talk. Jason asked the important question that I forgot to address regarding Saturday at Bramlage. Were there armadillos in the crowd? Jason, watching on the YouTube. Appreciate you, Jason. I saw one. I saw one stuffed armadillo they put up on the Jumbotron, and then there was a video that the K-State, I think it was the K-State Basketball X account posted where it was all the guys coming back into the locker room, celebrate, call it win cam.
Yeah.
And they're coming back in the locker room and they're all celebrating and doing a little dance, showing off. And Brendan Hawson had an armadillo and flashed at the camera.
They got to mention a couple times when I watched the second half of the game, so I don't know how much it got mentioned in the first half, but they definitely joked about their who made the call?
Pete Souza.
Yeah, our friend Pete Souza. That's what shoot, who was on the call?
Oh, Rich Hollenberg.
Yeah, Rich Hollenberg. He's like, our friend Pete Souza made this call about the armadillo the other night.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Got a big pop. Not as big as the dancing grannies, but still pretty big pop for the armadillo when it made it onto the jumbotron. Super Bowl 59 is in the books, and we will go through this week and do some Chiefs post-mortem stuff. We will take a look back on the season that was and talk about where the Chiefs go from here, as it does feel like in the same way that their loss in 2021 and the subsequent Tyreek Hill trade represented a change in direction or a needed change in direction. The loss on Sunday showed just how many leaks there were in the stern for this Chiefs team. And now the Eagles were uniquely positioned to take advantage of them. Some of the things we talked about all year as being weaknesses for the Chiefs. No explosive plays. Well, they hit on a couple when the game was already 34-0 and over with, but no explosive plays, guys unable to get open. That hurt them against the Eagles defense. The patchwork offensive line, like every patch, it works until it gives out.
Yeah.
And the left side of the offensive line gave out in a big, big way in that game. Why did it give out? Because the Eagles defensive line was good enough to mix and match and win with pressure repeatedly over and over in a way that the Texans couldn't hold up and do against this group. And the Bills couldn't hold up and do against that group. The Eagles were good enough to make that bruise hurt. Cornerback depth. Chiefs struggled with it after the injury from Jalen Watson. Watson was playing at a super high level before he broke his ankle in week 7. He never got back to that level of play after returning from injury. He got burnt twice in the game. Once on the long pass to Jahan Dotson that set up the first touchdown of the game, and another time over the top on the Devontae Smith long ball that ended up really being the final nail in the coffin. Those weaknesses, again, exacerbated by the fact that the Eagles, unlike most teams in the NFL, have 2 number 1 wide receivers. How many teams in the league have a wide receiver pair as good, that was healthy at the end of the year, have a pair of wide receivers as good as Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown? The answer might be 0.
Yeah.
And so the Eagles were built to exploit the things that the Chiefs had as weaknesses and could cover over and over again throughout the year because they were good enough everywhere else, and they would get you into a close game. And in a close game, they were always the better team because they're prepared for those moments. They're well coached in those moments, and they have the force multiplier that is Patrick Mahomes. How you make that stuff not matter is you blow the other team to smithereens, and that is what the Eagles did to the Chiefs. And I think really the further we get from this, it will be a lot more obvious that we should have seen it coming, Spencer. The Eagles went 16-1 in their last 17 games.
And they could have been 17-0 if
the only
Jamison Crowder didn't catch a random touchdown with seconds left in the game against Commanders.
Yes, the only loss was to the Commanders on a last-second touchdown in a game that Jalen Hurts missed 3 of the 4 quarters. The only game they lost after their bye week, after their first 4 games, the only game they lost was a game that Jalen Hurts didn't finish. Every time he finished a game, they won. And they end up doing something that hadn't been done since the 1989 49ers, a team we recognize as an all-time great. They won the conference championship and the Super Bowl by 18-plus points. This was a juggernaut operating in plain sight. And for whatever reason, we didn't trust Jalen Hurts. We didn't trust Nick Sirianni. We felt like they didn't maybe have as much pop in the pass rush because they didn't have those double-digit sack guys. We missed it. And we weren't the only ones. Vegas missed it. A lot of the professionals, a lot of the prognosticators missed it. But I think the more we look back on it, we'll look at that Eagles team and go, holy crap, what a collection of talent. What a football team.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it twice this year, and I think when you combine Saquon Barkley with an offensive line like that, and you have Jalen Hurts as your quarterback with two of the top wide receivers, two of the top, I'd say 50 wide receivers, or heck, two of the top 40 wide receivers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
There's not 40, there's not that many other if you combine those two players. On top of a defense that has an amazing defensive line, you drafted well in the secondary, and you found a diamond in the rough in Zach Bond. Like, so many levels to that team.
And I don't know if it is consolation or not. I kind of feel like it is. I would rather have seen the Chiefs' reign, which lasted 728 days from Super Bowl 57 to yesterday. 728 days as the champions of the NFL. I would rather have seen that reign ended by a team that came and took it from them than to have seen it lost because you just had a bad day against an inferior team. Like, that would have felt way worse. What happened last night was not an accident. It was not a fluke. It probably happens. If you play that game 10 times, it probably happens 6 or 7 times. The better team won Super Bowl 59. And I do think there is some consolation in knowing that history was denied and a reign was ended by a team that was good enough to just snatch the crown off your head. And would you have liked to have put up a bit more of a fight in the process? Absolutely. Getting 40-pieced in a Super Bowl is going to sit with this Chiefs team for a long time. It's going to be defining until they have a chance to define themselves differently moving forward. But this one's going to sting, and this one's not going to shower off easy, and it shouldn't. But I do think it's better that it ended this way than if it had ended in an upset loss to an clearly inferior team on a bad day. Maybe you feel differently, but that's the way I see it as we put Super Bowl 59 to bed. We'll take one final break, and when we come back, we will have the final word and wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up, walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk with a final word. Spencer.
Yes, we didn't do what we normally do on an after Chiefs show and give game balls to players, right? Disappointing, sad day, ending the reign, ending the three-peat. I want to give a game ball to Xavier Worthy. Dude balled out in his first Super Bowl, 8 catches, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think we saw one thing that we haven't really seen all season. He can catch the deep ball. They connected. They connected something they didn't do all season long. They connected on the deep ball, with Xavier Worthy.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Of all the times for it to finally click, it's at the end of a blowout in the Super Bowl. Of all the times. But hey, maybe that's
a good teaser.
Yeah, maybe that's a sign for next year that the deep ball chemistry between Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy can be real. Final word for me. As I just said, I think there is some consolation in knowing that the Chiefs' reign did not end at the hands of a David taking the stone out and slaying the Goliath. This was Goliath. It turned out Goliath was wearing green last night. The better team, the deeper team, the faster team, the hungrier team ended up winning that football game, and they did it in the way that the most worried to win with 4-man rushes and pressure Patrick Mahomes and just completely break the Chiefs offense in that game. But the other nice thing, if it can be called a nice thing about losing that game that way, is because it lays all of your flaws bare. You can't make excuses. You can't hide from what that performance was and what that performance showed you about what has to get better about the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes said it himself. He knows he has to get better as a player. Laid his flaws on the table. Laid the roster construction flaws on the table as well. We'll have a lot of time to do some armchair GMing moving forward, and we will certainly do some of that as we go on this week on 580 Sports Talk. But Brett Beach and company certainly have some work to do to get this roster back to a championship standard. Oh, and one other thing. Pitchers and catchers for the Royals have their first official workout on Wednesday. We'll leave on that happy thought on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll be back with you tomorrow from 3 until 6. Matt Verderame and Michael Twain will join us on tomorrow's show. For Brendan and Spencer, I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.